Hey, Genshin Impact fam. Today we'll talk about. Okay, yeah, sorry, I'll stop. That was cringe. Anyways, so the 6.5 banners just got revealed. Linnea is the only new unit releasing this patch, running with Chasca on Phase 1 and Lauma and Nefer in Phase 2. So, if you're planning to pull this patch, I'll help you figure it out on who's actually worth it. Also, quick note, Chronicled Wish is in this patch too, with Emily, Clarin, Navia, Sijuin, and Linny. Emily is the only one that is usable here, and Clarin if paired with Bina and Enefa, and same thing with Navia playing her with Bina Linnea, then Emily with Kinich, but Emily can be easily replaced with Bennett, so only pull for the Chronicled banner if you like these characters, and if you're wondering about Linny and Sijuin, well, they're useless. Starting off with Linnea. Linnea is the new unit releasing in 6.5 and she's basically what Nefer is to Flint's but for Zebai. She's basically like Silonan but for Lunar Crystallized. So anyways, what does she do? When Lumi is active, which is her pet, when you use her skill, she decreases the enemy's GRS by 15% and when Ascendant Claim is active, she decreases the GRS by another 15%, which is 30% in total, which is a lot. And her skill has two modes. When you tap her E, she applies Geo and does lunar crystallized damage every once in a while. And when you continuously tap her skill, Lumi does massive lunar crystallized damage with the cost of requiring more on-field time, and her burst is just healing. So, should you pull for her? If you have Zebai, sure, you could consider pulling for her, but even without Zebai, she's still great. She could work with other Geo units, but Linnea is the one doing the most damage on those teams, and with Columbina, she becomes as strong as Inefa but not stronger than Inefa. Now, let's move on to Chasca. Here's the problem. Chasca right now kinda struggle with the meta, but she's still usable on endgame content. And Furina is her only real Hydro option, since she can't synergize with Yelan and Xingqiu's burst, and that's a downside already. She could also work with Columbina and Inefa, but Inefa does most of the damage on that team, so it feels like you're just using Chasca pretending she's the one dealing the damage. While she has a lot of team options, most of her teams are 5-star supports that top tier DPS also wants, or 4-star characters that other top tier DPS also wants. And she also relies on Sphorina more than anyone else, more than Neuvillette. And if you compare her to newer DPS units, she doesn't look worth pulling unless you like her, of course. Let's talk about Nefer. First, Nefer without Lauma, her damage is underwhelming. But she could still clear decently enough on endgame content, and without Lauma, she loses about 30 to 40% DPS, which is a lot. And you would definitely feel this on Stygian Onslaught compared to Spiral Abyss, since Abyss enemies have a bit lower HP compared to Stygian enemies, and she's worse than Skirk without Escoffier and Flints without Inafa, if you don't have Llama. So yeah, she relies more than Skirk and Flint's premium supports, so if you don't have Llama, Nefer isn't that great on her own. Unlike Nefer, Llama is way more flexible. You don't need Nefer to make her work, obviously. She fits into a lot more teams, she can work with any Hydro and Dendro units, and she also has Rest Shred on her skill, which is nice. You could also just run Hyper Bloom on her and clear endgame content decently, and it depends on the enemies, obviously. Her C1 is also worth considering, but I'll talk about that later in my pulling advice section. And with Columbina's release, she just became stronger. Only pull for Nefer if you're pulling for Llama, but if you really like Nefer's design, then go ahead, pull for her. It's your account, not mine. I know you skipped here. Yeah, I know. Okay, alright, anyways. Now that we've talked about every character, who should you actually pull here? So, if you have Nefer but don't have Llama, then go pull for Llama. And if you do want to upgrade your Nefer team, pulling for C1 Llama would be better for your account as it changes team building, since her best in slot team doesn't have a sustain. And for Linnea, she can make Zibai the strongest DPS, but she doesn't really need Linnea right now to clear endgame content. And if you already have C6 Iluga, pulling for C1 Llama can be better for your account since like I said, Nefer's best in slot team doesn't have a sustain. And Llama's C1 healing can make that feel more comfier and fit into more teams. And for Nefer, just pull for her if you already have Llama or have enough primos to pull for Llama and Nefer dispatch. And for Chasca, well, all I'm gonna say is pull for her if you like her. So, to sum things up, need a Nefer team upgrade, pull C1 Llama. Linnea, good but not necessary for now. Nefer only if you can also get Lauma, and Chasca, pull if you like her. And with 6.6 coming soon, Nicole and Lohan might release, so keep that in mind if you're looking forward to them. So yeah, that's basically it for this video. If I forgot or missed something, I'll put it on the pinned comment. And let me know your thoughts in the comments, I'll be checking out most of them, so feel free to ask any questions. And if this video helped, consider liking and subscribing as it helps me out a lot. And that's all, thanks for watching, and see you guys on the next one.
How to sound like Bakugo.
How to sound like Bakugo. How to sound like Bakugo. How to sound like Bakugo.
How to sound like